Assalamualaikum, hi, and I hope everyone is in a good mood. Welcome to the Phonetics and Phonology segment where we discuss how words are pronounced. Today, we will be discovering 3 topics. The first one being vowels, specifically diphthong. The second one, consonant clusters. And the last one, connected speech, specifically elision. Sit back, relax, and grab your nasi lemak before we start. Who? Accidents? Kaed?
Reporting from Kaed, around 2:30 p.m. earlier, several incidents were reported to occur due to some mishap and bad circumstances. The Phonology Police had released a notice of phonological alertness asking the student to be careful and pay attention to their speech. So, with Hear Me today... What happened? Word reading. The participant will be displayed 5 papers each with 5 different words that may illustrate the phonological process of a diphthong. Participants are asked to read each word 3 times, then participants will read the words accordingly. The words that are being used for this task are coat, lady, micro, about, and sewer. After the task has finished, an analysis will be conducted to analyze how the words are pronounced and transcribe them into phonetic transcription.
Sentence reading. This session helps us in observing the processes under consonant clusters while the 3 participants read all 6 sentences that we provided. The participant will be given a handout consisting 6 sentences that have consonant clusters in each of the sentences. The sentences are stated in the video. The consonant clusters and the processes including insertion, omission, and resyllabification used by the participants will be detailed in the analysis part.
Third, interview session. This session is beneficial for us to test on the participants' connected speech usage in daily conversation. Participants will be asked a few questions about themselves, initiating them to create spontaneous speech and speak casually or naturally. Each participant was asked the same question at first, which is, can you tell us a little about yourself? But later, the interviewer continues with different sets of questions depending on the participant's response and proficiency.
A code, micro, yeah.
So for our first speaker Raka, change the diphthongs from U to O in the word quote and micro. So the first justification is that Bahasa Indonesia doesn't have diphthongs of U or O. Thus, because of the phonetic inventory differences between Bahasa Indonesia and English language, Indonesian has a more straightforward vowel system compared to English. Indonesian vowels are typically monophthongs, which is single pure vowel sounds, and the language lack the diphthongs of O. Instead, Indonesian vowels are generally stable and do not glide from one sound to another. The second justification is that in Indonesian, the closest equivalents to the English diphthongs are not exact matches. Indonesian speakers might substitute the English O diphthong with a single vowel, often O, leading to a pronunciation that sounds more like
caught,
or
caught,
than
coat.
Next, let's delve into the changes of diphthong I in the word micro, which there are two changes that happen because of the conflict within the speaker itself. Let's see the clip.
micro, micro.
Hence, we can see that the participant inconsistently pronounced this diphthong. The first justification for this analysis is that AGPS 1986 argues that due to the familiarity with the sound, Indonesian speakers should not have difficulties with three diphthongs that appear in Bahasa Indonesia, which is I, Oi, and Au. Although the diphthong I for this word exists in Bahasa, the participant seems conflicted about pronouncing it, which may be because of the differences between the original spelling and the pronunciation. Hence, this is our second justification. English spelling often does not directly correspond to pronunciation, unlike Indonesian, which is more phonetic. Indonesian pronunciation is consistent as Bahasa Indonesia is a phonetic language, meaning each alphabet represents one sound, except the letter E. This occurrence can confuse Indonesian speakers in learning English.
Micro.
For our next speaker, Yafa from Vietnam, pronounced micro as micro. There are differences in the pronunciation of diphthongs of O to O, same like our first speaker, Raka. The first justification is that Vietnamese do have diphthongs. For example, the word moi, meaning roof, has a diphthong sound created by the oi combination. Here, the sound starts with a more open O and glides towards a closed E sound. It is different from the Indonesian language. Thus, the usage of diphthongs and gliding from one vowel to another vowel is very familiar to Vietnamese speaker. Hence, that's why the diphthongs of I is still pronounced in the word micro. However, the word pronunciation of micro, the sound of O, is influenced by the English spelling. The second justification is because of the loanwords from English to Vietnamese. English loanwords are becoming more common in Vietnamese. Therefore, these words are adapted to fit the Vietnamese sound system. Hence, that is why the word pronunciation of micro becomes micro. The sound of O are adapted to their own language accent, thus it becomes unique sound, not directly mimicking English diphthongs.
Coat, coat, coat. Lady, lady, lady. Micro, micro, micro. About, about, about.
Differently, we couldn't find any missing diphthongs pronounced by our last speaker, Reem, except for one word, which is the word sewer. However, that will be explained in the overall differentiation of the three speakers, since all the speakers have some troubles in pronouncing that word. Therefore, the justification that we can give for our last speaker is that her fluency and proficiency in English are great because of her early exposure to English language by her mom speaking to her in English at an early age. Also, the school that she went to used English as the medium of instruction in every subject that she learned. Hence, her pronunciation sounds somewhat like a native speaker. To add, her IELTS level is Band 8, which is a very good score. Her great competency is shown by the way she answered all the questions and tasks from the interview session. Hence, that's lead to a deeper understanding of phonological awareness.
Sewer, sewer, sewer.
Sewer, sewer, sewer.
Sewer, sewer. Now, let's go into a more deeper analysis for the word sewer. The word sewer contains a diphthong oo, or a sequence of vowels that is not common in many other languages. ESL speakers might not be familiar with this specific sound combination. In terms of articulatory ease, the transition from s to u involves moving from a sibilant sound to a glide, then to a diphthong, which can be challenging. Adding a vowel like E can make this transition smoother and easier to articulate. Hence, that's why all of our 3 ESL speakers pronounce the word sewer to sewer. Lastly, as we analyze, 2 of the ESL speakers speak in an American accent. Basically, we could conclude that it is because of the influence of the surroundings, such as the movies that they watch, the music, the audiobook that they listen to, as well as from the daily conversations with others. Hence, that is why most of these ESL speakers develop an American accent.
He works in a small downtown office. The guest arrived late last night.
For the first speaker, Raka, we noticed that in this sentence, he works in a small downtown office. The speaker used insertion, which we can see that the speaker insert the sound r and pronouncing it, and it is obvious to hear the r sound. He inserted the sound r and pronounced the word work. So, let's look at this clip together, shall we?
He works in a small downtown office.
Based on this example, it suggests that in Bahasa Indonesia, consonant clusters are relatively simple compared to English. Most Indonesian words typically do not have complex consonant clusters, especially those involving the r sound immediately following another consonant. It is probably due to 2 conditions. Firstly, phonothetic constraints. Bahasa Indonesia generally avoids clusters that are not native to its phonological system. The clusters erks in works is not common in Indonesian. As a result, Raka might have inserted the r sound to break up what is perceived as a difficult cluster. Next up, epitasis. This is a common phonological process where speakers insert a sound to make a pronunciation easier. In this case, the insertion of r between and x helps to bridge the gap and make the transition smoother. Now, let's take a look at the next process, which we classify as omission. In the sentence, the guest arrived late last night. Raka did apply the process of omission, where we can hear he omit the second consonant, which is the t sound, to make it easier to pronounce the word guests quickly. So, let's look at another clip.
The guest arrived late last night.
Do you wonder why does this omission happen? These are the reasons. First of all, simplification of consonant clusters. In Bahasa Indonesia, complex consonant clusters at the end of words are rare. Therefore, when faced with the cluster in guests, the speaker might simplify it by omitting the t sound to conform to more familiar phonotactic patterns. Next one, ease of articulation. Pronouncing quickly and correctly can be challenging, especially for speakers whose first language does not include such clusters. Omitting the t sound simplifies the pronunciation and speeds up speech. Last but not least, influence of syllable structure. Bahasa Indonesia primarily has a CV consonant-vowel syllable structure and avoids multiple consecutive consonants, particularly at the end of words. The omission aligns with this tendency, making the word more manageable within the speaker's native phonological framework.
The guest arrived late last night. He climbed the step mountain easily.
Moving on to the second speaker, which is Yafa from Vietnam. Based on the test conducted, we find out that Yafa committed two processes under the topic of consonant clusters. The first one is omission. In the sentence, the guests arrived late last night. Yafa did the same thing as Raka, which he applied the process of omission, where we can hear Yafa omit the second consonant, which is the T sound, to make it easier to pronounce the word guests more quickly.
The guest arrived late last night.
So, how did this happen? Is it related to Vietnamese language itself? Let's find out. Do you guys know, in Vietnamese, consonant clusters, especially at the end of words, are generally simpler than in English? The language has strict phonotactic rules about which consonants can appear in the final position and typically avoids complex clusters. Here, our Yafa might have omitted the T sound. First of all, the phonotactic constraints. Vietnamese syllable structure is more restrictive, particularly regarding final consonants. Vietnamese does not have final consonant clusters like st. Therefore, Java might simplify the word guests by omitting the T sound to match the phonotactic patterns of their native language. Next one is the articulation E. Pronouncing the cluster st can be challenging for a Vietnamese speaker due to the absence of similar clusters in Vietnamese. Omitting the T sound makes the pronunciation more manageable and aligns better with the syllable structures the speaker is accustomed to. Moreover, there is also a resyllabification process that occurred in the text. Let's look at the example in this clip.
He climbed the step mountain easily.
The sentence is, he climbed the mountain easily. The resyllabification process occurred at the part climb the instead of pronouncing it climbed the. Resyllabification occurred when Java split and attached the D sound in climbed to the next word, which turns out to be the instead of the. For your information, resyllabification involves altering the syllable structure to fit the speaker's native phonological system. Now, these may be why Java technically used the resyllabification process. The first one is phonetic transition. Vietnamese has a more straightforward syllable structure, often avoiding complex consonant combinations. When faced with the cluster nt, followed by the dental fricative the speaker might naturally reassign the sound to the next syllable to facilitate a smoother transition between sounds. Next up, we have lack of dental fricatives. Vietnamese does not have the dental fricative sounds and This unfamiliarity can cause two speakers to modify or simplify these sounds. In this case, the might be approximated or altered, leading to the resyllabification as the instead of the.
He climbed the steep mountain easily.
As for the last speaker, Reem from India, we noticed that her acquisition in English is just beyond average. She did very well in the test, and we also found out that she applied the resyllabification process during the test. Let's take a look.
He climbed the steep mountain easily.
The sentence is, he climbed the steep mountain easily. She did the exact same thing like Alpha did just now. Resyllabification occurred when she split and attached the sound in climbed to the next word, which is the instead of the. Knowing her, we do believe that she has been exposed to English since her early childhood. Does this actually be the reason why she speaks really well in English? This is our first point. Influence of early exposure to English. Let's delve into it. Multiple accents and dialects. Growing up in English medium school in Saudi Arabia, she would have been exposed to various English accents, including British, American, and also Indian English from her parents. This diverse linguistic environment can influence pronunciation habits, including the natural tendency to link words in connected speech. Intonation and rhythm. Early exposure to English would have ingrained the natural intonation and rhythm patterns of the language. Resyllabification helps maintain the melodic flow of English sentences, which is an integral part of fluent speech. Moving on to the second point, simplification for ease of pronunciation. Let's go. Reduction of consonant clusters. The clusters nk and v can be complex to articulate smoothly. By splitting and reassigning the d sound to the next syllable, RIM simplifies the pronunciation without significantly altering the meaning or comprehensibility of the sentence. Phonetic adjustment. Even among fluent speakers, slight phonetic adjustments are common to ensure clarity and ease of pronunciation. She might have adjusted climbed the to climb the to make the sentence flow more naturally in spontaneous speech.
Then I just play like in just 2 quarter. And then I like play games which is like PUBG Mobile or Mobile Legend. I think I have many and different.
The first justification for our participants' pronunciation is phonological difference. In Indonesian, the sound t and d is less aspirated compared to English. In some cases, the sounds t and d are even pronounced with a glottal stop. Let's take a look at a few examples.
He is a legend.
Di kelas ada seorang murid.
The d sound in the word murid is less aspirated compared to the d sound in legend. The next example that we can look at is the word different. English, the word different is pronounced as different.
He looks different.
Meanwhile, in Indonesian, let's take a look at the word bakat.
Kamu harus memilih pekerjaan yang berhubungan dengan bakat dan minatmu.
The word bakat is pronounced with a glottal stop in the end. The next justification that we're going to talk about is language acquisition. Firstly, language exposure. As we all know, early language exposure is essential for individuals to obtain high proficiency in foreign languages. However, our participant Raka from Indonesia was only exposed to English when he reached 9 years old at school, making the process of adapting the language slower and more reluctant. When interviewed, Reka answered our questions with short responses that also comprised of many stutters and grammatical errors. We're going to show you a few examples.
And then I like play games which is like PUBG Mobile or Mobile Legend. I think I have many and different.
The next factor is medium of instruction. In Indonesia, the schools mainly make use of their mother tongue for teaching and learning sessions. This also includes English subjects. The participant Raka stated that his lessons during school were taught in Indonesian. This hindered the development of the English language as everyday tasks did not involve English. In the end, English will be infused with his mother tongue. Let's take a look at a few examples.
And then I just play like in just 2/4.
So as we watched in the clip, we could see that Raka pronounced the word just as just.
And then I like play games which is like PUBG Mobile or Mobile Legend.
In this second clip, we could see that Raka pronounced the word legend as legend. The sound there is not emphasized, just like in Indonesian words. This is because Indonesians lack aspirated consonants.
I need to ask for detail, updating about things in the world. I just create a IG account when I be here. Either I sacrifice my study time to separate it. It's like my experience in Malaysia in general lah.
One of the justifications for Yafa's pronunciation is final consonant restrictions. In Vietnamese, the set of final consonants existing is much more limited compared to English. In Vietnamese, the final consonants include p, t, k, m, n, ng, and y. But it does not have any final consonants that represent the consonants the, s, and t. To give you examples, the word ask in English is pronounced as ask.
Ask.
Meanwhile, in Vietnamese, the word ba, even though the transcription includes the k sound is unreleased.
Bak.
The next justification is tonal language and final consonant clusters. Vietnamese is a tone language, which is a language that uses pitch to develop morphemes, and different intonations can give different meanings to one word. Meanwhile, English is a non-tone language whose intonation does not play a part in giving meaning. This will lead to difficulties in stressing the final consonants in English, and Vietnamese speakers might unconsciously drop the final consonants in English. Vietnamese does not have final consonant clusters, which are 2 or more consonants at the end of a syllable, like English does. Words ending in sk sound, as in the word ask, or ult sound, as in the word world, are particularly challenging because these clusters are not present in Vietnamese phonology. To give you examples, in British, the word experience is typically pronounced as experience.
Experience.
Meanwhile, in Vietnamese, it is typically pronounced as experience.
It's like my experience in Malaysia in general lah.
Next, the word ask is pronounced as as. The final consonant cluster sk is challenging because Vietnamese does not have such clusters in their language.
I need to ask for detail.
Next examples, the word account
Account.
becomes account.
I just create a IG account when I be here.
The final nth cluster is not common in Vietnamese. The tonal emphasis may cause the t to be less pronounced or omitted. The next example, the word world becomes world.
World.
Updating about things in the world.
The lt cluster at the end is particularly difficult because Vietnamese speakers may not be used to articulating such clusters. The next example that we can take from the way Yafa pronounces his words is sacrificed becomes sacrificed.
Sacrificed.
Either I sacrifice my study time to separate it.
The emphasis on maintaining the correct tone for each syllable can detract from the articulation of final consonants. This tonal focus might lead to the elision of the finals in the cluster. Thus, the word sacrificed becomes sacrificed.
Mostly I like to hang out with my friends. I like to take up new hobbies. I can't stick with one.
The justification for Reem's pronunciation is omission of certain sounds. Reem is Indian, but she grew up in a family that speaks fluent English. She also attended schools that use English as the medium of instructions. Thus, she developed a quite high English proficiency. In English, when fluent especially, it gets difficult to pronounce the sound when it comes in between two consonants. Your mouth will have to do extra work, so in many cases, the D sound is not pronounced. For example, the word friends is pronounced as friends.
My best friend let me borrow his car.
Mostly I like to hang out with my friends.
To add, in English, the speakers often don't pronounce the T sound when it comes in between two consonant sounds. This often happens to ensure the speech flows more fluently. For examples, the word can't will be pronounced as can. Mostly becomes mostly. Let's listen to the pronunciations.
I can't stand the rain.
It must be time to leave.
I like to take up new hobbies. I can't stick with one. Mostly I like to hang out with my friends.
The next justification is textbook learning. The participant Reem did not use connected speech in her response since she has been learning English through books. Thus, her English sounds formal and there is no connected speech being used. Reem's early exposure to English since she was 6 years old is also prominent in her proficiency that resulted in textbook language. The participant also attended a school that uses full English for the lesson. The formal setting had urged her to continuously practice academic English. Let's listen to a few examples of Reem's textbook English.
I have a cat whose name is Shadow, and we have a program on Sunday, so do come to it. You have to use that to make stitches,